On the morning of January the 15th, 1947, just before 11 a.m., local resident of Los Angeles, Betty Bersinger, was walking her 3-year-old daughter when she found something that looked like a mannequin. On a closer inspection, she realized it was a woman's corpse, severed at the waist. She ran to the nearest house and called the police. The mutilated body was drained of blood, hence the pallid look that made Mrs. Bersinger mistake it for a mannequin. The face had cuts from the corners of the mouth to the ears, creating the effect called the Glasgow smile. The body had also many cuts on her breast and thighs, with portions sliced away. Both parts of the body were placed 1 foot apart from the other. The torso was with the arms pointing towards the head on a 90-degree angle. The lower body had her legs spread apart. When the medical examiners arrived, determined that she had been dead for at least 10 hours before the body's discovery and had been washed away with gasoline by the killer. Since there wasn't found a drop of blood in the crime scene, it was determined that she was murdered elsewhere. The autopsy was held on January the 16th, and with the help of the FBI, a quick identification of the body was achieved. Records of an application for a job as a clerk at the commissary of the Army's Camp Cook in California in January 1943, and an arrest file dated 7 months later for underage drinking by the Santa Barbara police, along with her fingerprints and a mugshot for this felony, helped with an easy identification. The body belonged to 22-year-old Hollywood hopeful Elizabeth Short. It was found that the lower body was severed by performing a hemicorporectomy, a technique with the lower bodies amputated by transecting the lumbar spine. There was found little bruising along the incision, which indicated it was made after death. The skull was not fractured, but there was bruising on the front left side of the scalp, consistent with several blows to the head. After a thorough analysis, the cause of death was determined to be hemorrhage from lacerations of the face and shock from the blows to the head. The case was known as the murder of Black Dalia. Acquaintances of the victim called her that way as a nod for her taste for wearing black dresses and the 1946 movie The Blue Dahlia. Seemingly making progress in the case, investigators apprehended and questioned Robert Manley, who was the last person to have seen Elizabeth Short live. They met in San Diego and dropped her off at the LA's Biltmore Hotel the night of January the 9th. Manley identified one shoe and a purse found close to the crime scene as Short's, but he was released after a polygraph test. Later that same year, he was given a shot of sodium pentanol, which was believed to be a truth serum, but he was cleared again. He died 39 years later on 1986 of an accidental fall. In late January, a person who claimed to be the killer phoned the former newspaper Los Angeles Examiner, stating that he planned to turn himself in eventually, but not before allowing the police to pursue him further, and that they should expect some souvenirs from Beth Short in the mail. Later that month, an envelope labeled "Heaven is Here" and a message from written in colored letters saying, "Here's Dahlia's belongings, letter to follow," was sent to the examiner's office. Inside of it was a number of Short's personal documents, including a birth certificate, the social security card, and an address book with the number of Mark Hansen, the manager of a burlesque nightclub named Florentine Gardens, among other documents. Along with Hansen's name, the police found evidence of over 75 possible suspects on the case. On March the 14th was found an apparent suicide note scrawled on a piece of paper, tucked away inside a shoe, and some discarded clothes on Venice Beach. The note read, "To whom it may concern, I have waited for the police to capture me for the Black Dahlia's killing, but have not. I am too much of a coward to turn myself in, so this is the best way out for me. I couldn't help myself for that, or this. Sorry, Mary." Several different letters were sent to the media from the self-styled killer, still made from cut-out pieces of paper, stating that, "I will give up on the Dahlia killing if I get 10 years. Don't try to find me." Up to this day, it is unclear how Mark Hansen's address book fell into Short's hands. Many of the young women who worked for him lived at his home, just behind the nightclub. Short lived there for several months in 1946, and Hansen was rumored to have tried to get in bed with her, but he was rejected. Some sources say it was him who identified Short's belongings, and not Manley. For a while, he was the main suspect, but he was also cleared. George Hoddle, known physician, then became a suspect. He was never formally charged by this crime, but he was accused of Short's death by his son, Steve Hoddle, in 1999. He was formally accused of his assistant's death in 1945, though, allegedly to cover up financial frauds and raping of his own daughter in 1949. He was cleared out of both. Non-sexual offenders were considered suspects on the Black Dalia's case. That's how he became a suspect. His medical degree arose also suspicion, noting that whoever bisected Short's body had some degree of surgical expertise. On top of that, at least 8 verified witnesses claimed that Hoddle and Short had a relationship in 1946. The extent of that relationship remains unclear. The full details of this investigation revealed in 2003 point out that back in 1950, Hoddle was the main suspect in Short's murder. Hoddle's home was bugged and several conversations were taped where he revealed to have performed several illegal abortions, giving payoffs to law enforcement officials, and his possible involvement on both his secretary's and Short's murders. He was recorded saying, "Supposing I did kill the Black Dahlia. They can't prove it now. They can't talk to my secretary anymore because she's dead. They thought there was something fishy. Anyway, now they might have figured it out. Killed her. Maybe I did kill my secretary." In October 1949, his name was brought up on a formal report to the grand jury assigned to the case. District Attorney Frank Jemison had enough evidence to formally charge him for the crime and arrest him, but Hoddle had left the United States. He later claimed that, "We know who the Black Dahlia killer was. He was a doctor, but we didn't have enough to put him away." He's also linked as one of the suspects of being the Zodiac killer, who operated on Northern California, but this claim also has been never confirmed. There are even some other theories, although very unlikely to have happened, to say the least. Mary Pacius, author of the book Childhood Shadows, The Hidden Story of the Black Dahlia, affirmed that the one responsible for Elizabeth Short's murder was famed movie director Orson Welles, who once did a magic trick act where he sawed a woman in half. The notoriety of this murder has encouraged a great number of confessions over the years, even from people that were not born yet at the time. The police initially received 60 confessions that over time rose up to 500. In 2003, a former police officer investigating the case claimed that he believed he had interviewed the killer, a man who had been seen with his sedan parked near the vacant lot where her body was discovered in the early morning hours of January 15, 1947. A neighbor driving by that day stopped to dispose a bag of lawn clippings in the vacant lot when he saw a parked sedan, allegedly with its right rear door open. The driver of the sedan was standing in the lot. His arrival apparently startled the owner of the sedan, who approached his car and appeared in the window before turning to the sedan and driving away. The owner of the sedan was followed to a local restaurant where he worked, but was ultimately cleared of suspicion. In the early 50s, the Black Dahlias became a cold case. Elizabeth Short is interred at the Mountain View Cemetery in Oakland. This is recognized as one of the most brutal and culturally enduring crimes in United States history, which is still unsolved, and probably will remain the same way forever. If you reached this far, please give us a like, consider subscribing, activate notifications, and follow us on social media. Soon, we'll be back with more inside the cleft of the mansions.